The morning sun poured gently through the windows, casting a golden hue over the house. It was one of those rare mornings where everything felt just right. The air was crisp, the birds sang softly outside, and the world seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Today was a day we had all been waiting for with bated breath, our daughter's graduation day, a milestone that marked not just the end of her school years, but the beginning of a new chapter filled with endless possibilities. I stood quietly in the bedroom, watching her in the mirror as she adjusted the cap and gown that symbolized years of hard work, sacrifice, and dreams. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of excitement and disbelief, as if she could hardly believe this moment was finally here. I could see the same pride reflected in her smile that I felt swelling in my chest, a fierce, protective love that only a parent knows. The house was alive with the sounds of preparation. Downstairs, my husband was bustling around, making sure every detail was perfect for the celebration we planned to host afterward. The flowers were arranged just so, the table set with care, and the invitations had brought in a steady stream of family and friends, all eager to share in this joyous occasion. Laughter and chatter filled the rooms, blending with the soft hum of music playing in the background. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the flutter of nerves in my stomach. This day was more than just a ceremony. It was a testament to years of late nights helping with homework, early mornings packed with school lunches, and countless moments of encouragement when the road got tough. It was a celebration of resilience, growth, and the unbreakable bond of family. As I glanced toward the living room, I caught sight of my husband. He was standing by the window, looking out with a thoughtful expression. For a moment, our eyes met, and I saw the pride shining in his gaze. We had been through so much together, the ups and downs, the challenges and triumphs, and today we were united in our joy for our daughter. It felt like the world had aligned perfectly for this one shining moment. The clock ticked steadily toward the time we needed to leave for the ceremony. I helped our daughter with the final touches, smoothing her hair, straightening her gown, and pinning on her tassel. She looked radiant, a young woman stepping confidently into her future. I felt a surge of emotion, a mix of pride and nostalgia, as memories of her childhood flooded my mind. The first steps, the first words, the first day of school, all leading to this very moment. Outside, the sun climbed higher, warming the day and filling the sky with a brilliant blue. Guests began to arrive, their faces glowing with happiness and anticipation. Hugs were exchanged, cameras clicked, and the air buzzed with excitement. Everyone was here to honor our daughter's achievement, to celebrate the culmination of her hard work and the promise of what lay ahead. I found myself surrounded by love and support, yet beneath it all, a quiet hope stirred within me. This day was not just about diplomas and speeches. It was about the future we dreamed of for our family. A future where our daughter would soar, where we would stand together through whatever came next. Little did I know the joy of this day was about to be shattered by a moment that would change everything. The auditorium was alive with the buzz of excitement and anticipation as families gathered to celebrate their children's achievements. The air was thick with pride, laughter, and the soft rustle of programs being flipped through. Our daughter sat among her classmates, her face glowing with a mixture of nerves and excitement. I sat beside my husband, my heart swelling with pride as I watched her prepare to take the stage. The ceremony began with speeches that echoed the themes of perseverance, hope, and new beginnings. Each word seemed to resonate deeply, reminding us all of the journey that had brought us here. When our daughter's name was finally called, a wave of emotion swept over me. She stood, straightened her cap, and walked confidently across the stage, her smile radiant and eyes shining with accomplishment. I clapped with all my might, tears streaming down my cheeks as I felt the overwhelming joy of witnessing this milestone. Around me, the crowd erupted in applause, a chorus of cheers and congratulations filling the room. This was her moment, a culmination of years of hard work, late nights, and unwavering determination. But just as the ceremony was winding down and the final applause began to swell, a voice cut through the joyous noise like a sudden storm breaking a clear sky. It was my husband's voice, sharp and cold, carrying a weight that silenced the room instantly. "I'm leaving," he announced, his words hanging heavy in the air. Time seemed to freeze. The applause died away, replaced by stunned silence. I turned to him, my heart pounding wildly, disbelief rooting me to the spot. Our daughter's smile faltered, confusion and hurt flashing across her face. The guests exchanged bewildered glances, unsure if they had heard correctly. "Leaving? What do you mean?" I whispered, my voice trembling with shock and pain. He avoided my gaze, his expression unreadable. "I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm leaving you, leaving this family." The room spun around me. My chest tightened as a storm of emotions crashed through me. Pain, anger, betrayal, and a deep, aching sadness. How could he choose this moment? Our daughter's graduation, a day meant for celebration, for joy, for hope, now marred by his sudden declaration. He offered a brief explanation, words that felt distant and hollow. He spoke of feeling trapped, of needing to find himself, of things falling apart between us. But his reasons felt like echoes from a place I no longer recognized, a place where love and commitment had been replaced by cold detachment. I wanted to scream, to beg him to stay, to fight for the family we had built together. But all I could do was stand there, stunned and broken, as the reality of his decision settled over me like a dark cloud. Our daughter's eyes filled with tears, her world shifting beneath her feet. Friends and family looked on, their faces etched with shock and sympathy. The joyous celebration had turned into a moment of heartbreak and uncertainty. As the ceremony ended and people began to gather their things, I felt a fierce determination rise within me. This was not the end of our story. No matter how painful this moment was, I knew I had to be strong. For my daughter, for myself, and for the family we still had the power to save. But in that instant, as I looked at my husband's cold, distant face, I realized that the battle ahead would be harder than I ever imagined. The days that followed my husband's shocking announcement were a whirlwind of emotions, a storm of disbelief, sorrow, and aching confusion that seemed to settle over every corner of our lives. The joyous celebration of our daughter's graduation had been shattered, replaced by a heavy silence that hung in the air like a thick fog. It was as if the world had shifted beneath our feet, leaving us unsteady and unsure of what the future held. At home, the atmosphere was tense and fragile. Our daughter, once radiant with hope and excitement, now carried a shadow in her eyes. The sparkle that had lit up her face on graduation day was dimmed by the weight of uncertainty and hurt. She tried to be strong, but I could see the cracks beneath her brave facade, the late-night tears, the quiet moments of solitude where she grappled with the reality of her family's unraveling. I found myself caught between my own heartbreak and the fierce need to be a pillar of strength for her. Every time I looked at her, I was reminded of the promise I had made to protect her, to shield her from pain as best I could. But how do you protect someone from the very thing that threatens to break your family apart? My husband's absence was a constant ache. The empty spaces where his laughter once filled the rooms felt colder, lonelier. Conversations that used to flow easily were now strained or avoided altogether. The silence between us was deafening, filled with unspoken words and unresolved pain. Friends and family reached out with sympathy and support, but their well-meaning words often felt like salt on a fresh wound. I appreciated their kindness, yet I longed for understanding, for someone to truly grasp the depth of the loss we were experiencing. It wasn't just the loss of a partner, it was the fracturing of a life we had built together, the unraveling of dreams and plans we had once shared. In the quiet moments, I wrestled with a flood of questions. How had we come to this point? Where had the love gone? Was there anything left to salvage, or was this the end of our story? The answers eluded me, slipping through my fingers like grains of sand. Despite the pain, a small flame of hope flickered within me. I refused to let despair consume me. For my daughter's sake, for the family we still were, I knew I had to find a way forward. It was a path fraught with uncertainty and fear, but it was the only path I could take. I began to gather my strength, to steel myself for the challenges ahead. I reached out to friends, sought counsel, and leaned on the support of those who cared. Each day was a battle, a struggle to hold on to hope amidst the heartbreak. And through it all, I held on to one unshakable truth, that love, even when tested and strained, could still be a force for healing and renewal. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was determined to walk it with courage and grace. Our family was broken, yes, but not beyond repair, and as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I knew that together we could face whatever came next. In the midst of the swirling chaos and heartache, a quiet but fierce determination began to take root within me. The shock of my husband's departure had left me reeling, but it also ignited a fire, a refusal to let this moment define the future of my family. I realized that if I wanted to protect my daughter and preserve what was left of our family, I had to stand strong, not just for her, but for myself. The days following the announcement were filled with difficult conversations, some with my husband, many with myself, and countless with those I trusted. I found myself digging deep, searching for the strength I didn't know I had. It wasn't about denial or pretending everything was okay. It was about facing the truth head on and deciding that I would not be broken by it. One evening, as the house grew quiet and the world outside settled into darkness, I sat down with my husband. The air between us was thick with tension, but I knew this conversation was necessary. I looked him in the eye and spoke with a calm but unwavering voice. "This family is not over," I said. "Our daughter needs us, all of us. I'm not going to let this be the end of our story." He looked away, frustration and pain flickering across his face, but I held my ground, refusing to back down. I reminded him of the promises we had made, the dreams we had shared, and the love that had once bound us together. I told him that while I understood his pain, abandoning us was not the answer. It was a turning point. For the first time since his announcement, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, a crack in the armor of his resolve. My words had challenged him, forced him to confront the consequences of his decision. In the days that followed, I channeled my energy into rebuilding, not just the physical aspects of our lives, but the emotional foundation that had been shaken. I reached out to friends and family, seeking support and guidance. I made sure my daughter knew she was loved, valued, and not alone in this. I also began to set boundaries with my husband. His departure was not a free pass to walk away without accountability. I made it clear that while I was willing to fight for our family, I expected honesty, respect, and a willingness to work through the pain. This firm stance was not easy. It meant confronting difficult truths and standing up to someone I once trusted implicitly. But it was necessary. It was a declaration that I would not be a passive victim in this story. I was a fighter, a protector, and a mother determined to hold her family together. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between us remained, but so did the possibility of change. My husband's initial anger and distance began to soften, replaced by moments of reflection and tentative communication. He was challenged by my strength, and perhaps for the first time, he began to see the impact of his choices. Through it all, I held on to hope. Hope that this storm could pass, that wounds could heal, and that our family could find a new way forward. It was a fragile hope, but it was real. And as I looked at my daughter, I knew that no matter what happened next, I had already taken the most important step. I had chosen to fight for us. The weeks that followed were a journey through a landscape of uncertainty, pain, and unexpected growth. The initial shock of my husband's departure had given way to a complex mix of emotions. Grief for what was lost, anger at the betrayal, but also a growing sense of resilience and determination. I realized that while the path ahead was daunting, it was also an opportunity to redefine our lives and reclaim our happiness. Each day brought new challenges. There were moments when the weight of it all felt unbearable, the quiet nights when loneliness crept in, the difficult conversations with my daughter as we both tried to make sense of the upheaval, and the practical realities of managing a household on my own. But amidst the struggle, I discovered a wellspring of strength I hadn't known I possessed. I focused on creating a stable, loving environment for my daughter. We leaned on each other, sharing our fears and hopes, finding comfort in our bond. I encouraged her to express her feelings, to ask questions, and to know that she was never alone. Together, we navigated the painful adjustments, celebrating small victories and supporting each other through setbacks. At the same time, I began to rebuild my own sense of self. I reconnected with old friends, pursued interests I had set aside, and sought out new opportunities for growth. Therapy and support groups became invaluable, providing a safe space to process my emotions and gain perspective. I learned that healing was not linear, it was messy, unpredictable, and deeply personal. My husband's presence in our lives became more complicated. While he remained distant at times, there were moments when he reached out, tentative and unsure. I set clear boundaries, protecting my daughter and myself from further hurt, but I also remained open to dialogue when it was respectful and constructive. It was a delicate balance, one that required patience, courage, and a commitment to our well-being. Through it all, I held on to hope. Hope that we could find a new normal, one defined not by loss but by growth and possibility. Hope that my daughter would thrive, surrounded by love and support. Hope that I could emerge from this chapter stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. Looking back, I see that the pain of that day, the day my husband announced he was leaving, was the catalyst for profound transformation. It forced me to confront my fears, to embrace vulnerability, and to discover the power of resilience. It taught me that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. Our family was forever changed, but it was not broken beyond repair. We were learning to navigate a new reality, one shaped by courage, love, and the unshakable bond between a mother and her child. And as I look to the future, I am filled with a quiet confidence. No matter what challenges lie ahead, I know we will face them together, stronger, united, and ready to write the next chapter of our story. Just when I thought we were beginning to find our footing, life threw another curveball that tested my resolve in ways I never anticipated. The fragile peace we had started to build was suddenly shattered by an unexpected confrontation, one that would force me to confront not only my husband's true feelings, but also the strength of my own voice. It happened on a day that began like any other. The sun was shining, the house was filled with the usual sounds of morning routines, and my daughter and I were preparing for the day ahead. Then, without warning, my husband returned, not with apologies or explanations, but with anger and frustration that spilled over into a heated argument. His voice was loud, filled with accusations and bitterness. He screamed about feeling trapped, misunderstood, and unappreciated. The words cut deep, each one a reminder of the pain and distance that had grown between us. But instead of breaking me, his outburst ignited a fire within me, a fierce determination to stand my ground and reclaim my power. I refused to be silenced or intimidated. With a calm but resolute voice, I told him that his anger would not dictate the future of our family. I reminded him of the promises we had made, the love we had once shared, and the responsibility we both had to our daughter. I made it clear that while I was willing to work through the pain, I would not tolerate disrespect or cruelty. The confrontation was intense and exhausting, but it marked a turning point. For the first time, I saw a flicker of vulnerability beneath his anger, a glimpse of the man I had once loved, struggling with his own fears and regrets. It was a painful reminder that healing would not be easy, but it was possible. In the days that followed, the tension between us remained, but so did a tentative hope. We began to communicate more openly, acknowledging the hurt and confusion that had driven us apart. It was a slow and fragile process, filled with setbacks and breakthroughs, but it was a start. Through it all, my daughter remained my anchor. Her resilience and courage inspired me to keep fighting, to keep believing in the possibility of reconciliation and renewal. Together, we navigated the complexities of our new reality, learning to balance hope with realism, love with boundaries. This unexpected turn, the confrontation that could have torn us apart, instead became a catalyst for growth. It forced us to face our pain honestly, to listen deeply, and to begin the difficult work of rebuilding trust. And as I look back on that day, I realize that sometimes the most challenging moments are the ones that lead to the greatest transformation. It was a reminder that strength is not the absence of struggle, but the courage to face it head on. Our journey was far from over, but with each step, we were moving closer to healing together. After the storm of confrontation, a fragile calm began to settle over our lives. The raw wounds were still there, but beneath the surface, a slow and steady process of healing had begun. Rebuilding trust was not easy. It was a delicate dance of honesty, patience, and vulnerability that required both my husband and me to confront our deepest fears and regrets. We started with small steps, simple conversations that acknowledged the pain without blame, moments of genuine listening where each of us tried to understand the other's perspective. It was humbling and sometimes painful, but it was necessary. I learned that trust is not rebuilt overnight. It is earned through consistent actions and a willingness to be open, even when it's uncomfortable. My husband began to show glimpses of the man I had once known, the one who cared deeply, who wanted to make things right but didn't know how. He apologized for the hurt he had caused, not just with words but through changes in behavior. He made an effort to be present, to communicate more honestly, and to support our daughter and me in ways that felt sincere. For my part, I worked on letting go of some of the anger and resentment that had built up inside me. It wasn't easy. Forgiveness is a journey, not a destination, but I realized that holding on to bitterness only kept me trapped in the past. I chose to focus on the possibilities of the future, on the hope that we could create a new kind of family, one built on honesty and mutual respect. Our daughter, too, played a vital role in this process. Her resilience and openness reminded us both of what truly mattered. She needed us to be united, to show her that even when things are hard, love and commitment can prevail. Watching her grow through this experience gave me strength and renewed purpose. Together, we began to create new traditions and memories, small moments of joy that helped to heal the fractures in our family. We celebrated milestones, shared laughter, and supported each other through setbacks. It was not a perfect journey, but it was real and meaningful. The road ahead was still uncertain, and there were days when doubt crept in. But with each step forward, I felt a growing sense of hope. We were learning to navigate the complexities of our relationship with honesty and compassion, building a foundation that could withstand the challenges to come. This chapter of our story was not about returning to the past, but about forging a new path, one that honored our struggles and celebrated our resilience. It was a testament to the power of love to heal, to transform, and to create new beginnings. As I looked at my family, I knew that while the scars of the past would always be a part of us, they did not define us. We were more than our pain, and we were a family reborn through courage, forgiveness, and hope. The journey we had traveled was long and arduous, marked by heartbreak, confrontation, and moments of profound vulnerability. Yet, as we stood on the other side of that storm, I felt a sense of peace and hope that I had not known in a long time. Our family, though forever changed, was beginning to heal and grow in ways I never imagined possible. This new beginning was not about erasing the past or pretending the pain never happened. It was about embracing the lessons we had learned, honoring the scars that told our story, and choosing to move forward with intention and love. We had faced the darkest moments together, and in doing so, we had discovered a strength that was deeper than any of us had realized. My husband and I had rebuilt our relationship on a foundation of honesty and respect. We no longer took each other for granted or assumed that love alone was enough. Instead, we committed to nurturing our bond every day through communication, empathy, and shared responsibility. It was a partnership renewed, not perfect, but real and resilient. Our daughter blossomed in this environment of healing and hope. She saw firsthand that families are not defined by their struggles, but by their ability to overcome them. Her laughter returned, brighter and more genuine than ever, and her dreams for the future grew bolder. She was a living testament to the power of resilience and the importance of never giving up on those you love. As for me, I found a new sense of purpose and self-worth. The trials we endured had shaped me into a stronger, wiser woman, one who understood that setbacks are not the end, but the beginning of transformation. I learned to trust myself, to set boundaries, and to embrace the uncertainty of life with courage and grace. Looking ahead, I knew there would still be challenges. Life is rarely a straight path, and healing is an ongoing process, but I was no longer afraid. I had faith in our family's ability to face whatever came next, together. This story, our story, was one of resilience, love, and the unbreakable bonds that hold us through the toughest times. It was a reminder that even when everything seems lost, there is always a way forward. there is always hope. And so, as we stepped into this new chapter, I carried with me the knowledge that we were not defined by the hardships we faced, but by the strength with which we met them. Our family was not perfect, but it was ours. A testament to the power of forgiveness, the courage to fight for love, and the promise of new beginnings. This was not just an ending, it was a beginning, a chance to write the next pages of our lives with hope, resilience, and an unwavering belief in the future we would build together.